Hello, thanks for joining us today. Today we're joined by Sam Paniker, who is a senior cybersecurity specialist at Catalyst. And today Sam's going to be talking with us about the case study and also is going to answer our case study questions. Thanks for joining us today, Sam. Can you please tell us about yourself and a little bit about the work that you do?
Thanks, Karen. Thanks once again for having me. So as you have already mentioned, I work for Catalyst as one of their senior cybersecurity consultants. As probably would have already discussed, I'm based in Perth. I've got my wife works here as a GP. I'm not even in Perth. I'm actually 2 hours up north from Perth in a place called Mora, which has got about 2,000 people there. I've got a 3-year-old who's got to come from school now. But yeah, so we love this place, and being in IT and also with COVID, given us a bit of blessing where nowadays you can work from home is a very normal thing. So it's the main thing that goes around in the community, or at least within IT, is we don't care how you work, what you do, we care what you perform. At the end point, the output is important, not how many hours you work or where you work from. So we play by that motto of being honest and doing a duty every time and any time, and at the same time having that flexibility of doing other things while we are at work. So yeah, so that's a bit about me. With regards to what I do, work in the cybersecurity space, like how you know, it's after COVID, you would have seen lots and lots of incidents that happen nowadays. It's always in the papers, lots of big bangs, industries, a lot of big sporting companies, all being hacked and things like that. So security now is at the forefront, and it's ever growing. So what we do basically is companies approach us to say we want to bolster our platform, mainly because with COVID, a lot of them work from home. So working from home, you have additional risk. You don't have that perimeter of defense within your company to protect you anymore. You're at your home. So you can do whatever you want. Not that anyone will do it, but there's always that possibility. So security becomes a very, very, very pivotal thing now. So people have approached us to help them. We go in, we analyze and look into their environment. We ask them what they want. They tell us what they really want and what they're trying to achieve. We help bolster their environment and make it a safe place to work. And we at the same time make sure that we also secure and make the people who are working for these companies safe as well. So that's what we do pretty much.
Excellent. And I think you've touched on some really great points. And one of the biggest points that came out of that was the values. And Catalyst is a very values-driven organization, isn't it?
Yeah. In the business, with not with IT but with anything nowadays, it's customer focus is number one. You don't have customer focus, no matter of how good you are, you will not be able to survive. So customer focus, what customer wants is what we need to give, and our business will grow based on that very central core concept. So customer focus and learning what they want and helping them achieve their goals make us successful as well.
Brilliant.
Absolutely.
And that takes us really nicely actually into the first task question. So thinking about what the customer wants, our first task question relates around the types of questions that would be really suitable and the questions that you could ask your clients as part of that kickoff session that you run, so that you can start to, identify and propose the best solutions for them.
Correct. So a kickoff session is very, very important. Why? It's more important for the client. Like how I said, we want to make sure the client gets what they want. So our first and very foremost question is, what is our end goal? What are we trying to achieve? Yes, we are here. This is what we propose, but what are we trying to achieve? If we are on the same page, what is the project schedule? Because at that point, they don't want to be there with us forever. We are there to deliver a good what they want, and we move out. What is a project schedule? So a couple of things that we always have in mind. A, as an icebreaker, names to faces, who we are, what you guys do, what we all do as a group, what is our values, yada, yada, as an icebreaker. The main thing is, why are we here and what is our end goal? Once we touch base and confirm that is there, we then say how many weeks or months or years are we going to take to do that task, aka a project delivery schedule. Once we do that, we'll say how does this best serve our mission, aka what do we need from the client to help us fix this? Do we need this permissions? Do we need this access? All these kind of things. And what are the critical tasks they want absolutely to be covered in this project? Finally, once we spell or once we give our requirements and things like that, we will finally confirm, is this what exactly the client wants? Why we do that? Because once we move to the next level, we don't want any confusions. Everything is scoped, everything is written and scoped, which is very important when you're doing a project. At the end point, we all want to be winners and we want to make sure the client is comfortable right at the very front.
Brilliant.
That's why this kickoff meeting is very important.
Awesome. And you mentioned part of that came through was obviously about that communication. And I love the fact that you reiterate back to the client exactly what they've told you so that they can confirm that that is what they wanted. Because sometimes a message coming through can be interpreted in a totally different way.
Yeah.
So that's obviously really important.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That is so true, Karen. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next question, our next task question, is around, you mentioned the timeframes and identifying what the client's timeframes are, but what strategies can you and your team use to actually ensure that you can set realistic timeframes and also to understand what potential obstacles might be there, especially for those new projects that potentially involve work that you maybe not have been experienced or done particularly to that point?
That's actually a very good question. So once we have that kickoff meeting to understand where the clients are at, we have a rough idea. Why do we have this rough idea? Is because we want to know our strength and weakness within our team. Not all of us are perfect. You can't be a master of everything. You're a jack of all trades, but master of none is what we all believe nowadays in IT. But there are certain areas we are all specialized in. And we want to make sure the specialist area, we have the people who are required in that project to do it with us. So that clear knowledge of strength and work and weakness within the team is something which we always start off with. The main thing with the initial part of kickoff meeting was to define the scope. Why we have that scope of the project and the project schedule is because one major task, if you look at us one major task, you're going to feel overwhelmed. You wouldn't know. So what we do is, okay, this is a new project, we have never done it before. How can we break it into multiple tasks? Very important. We then set timelines against each small task. So the moment we hit an obstacle, we know right at the front, rather than having to wait at the very end and tell the client, oh, sorry, we are late by 3 months. You rather be upfront and say we are late by a couple of days than 3 months. So then we can readjust, which is very important. Once we know that kind of item or kind of deficiencies, we can always work because we know the red flags and we can raise this red flag within our team. So we can get people from other teams who are more experienced into this environment to help us. So that's why knowledge and breaking things into small tasks is very important, especially for new projects. And at the end point, we need to be realistic. It's not that we're going to get things always correct all the time. So what is a contingency plan? So what if step one doesn't work? How do we fix it? Because we've broken it down, we're fairly confident with step two and step three. We don't know what step one is. How do we fix it? Do we take help from others? Do we have partners who can help us? So that's where this whole collaboration things come into. So we also use a lot of collaboration tools nowadays. We don't just send emails and wait for that person to respond after 24 hours. No, we have got collaboration tools where multiple people can respond. So we kind of know straight away that 10 people looking into is one of them just says, yes, I can do it, bang, thank you very much, rather than waiting for 10 people's emails to come and then analyze. Makes things much more quicker. So yes, a good kickoff meeting, understanding the proper scope of work, very important. Knowing the strength and weakness of your team, very, very important. Contingency plan. At the end point, finally, everything is communicate, communicate, communicate. In key in our businesses, you are never on your own. You need to ask for help. There is always people to help. You need to work as a team no matter what. Staying at home doesn't matter. It's not where you work from, it's what you do. So you have to always communicate. Make sure you've got the tools in place to communicate. And that, that's how it is. Do a couple of times and then you should be all good to go after that. So
Brilliant.
yeah.
And that's great advice for young people to learn in terms of entering the workplace as well. And touching back on, doesn't matter what location you're in, as long as you've got the right systems and the right, I guess,
Yeah.
the right infrastructure to connect, then you can get the job done.
Correctly. And also with lots of, especially with IT and things like that, when you're getting into the environment, you might be working from home initially. So with the new people entering the market, they feel a bit overwhelmed. They're like, I'm on my own, I'm at home. But you should never think that, because the more you're at home, yes, you are at home. We understand the mental health benefits or disadvantages because of those kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're not on your own. We are all there to help. Pick up the phone, Teams, if you're using Teams or Slack or Zoom, pick it up, ask for help. We are all here to help. The more you ask, the more you learn, you know, and that's what it is. You can never be perfect. Never. It's more you ask, more you learn. The more you learn, the more you be better at.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And I guess from a technical perspective, you deal
Yeah.
a lot with cloud-based applications and cloud-based
Yeah.
systems. In terms of cybersecurity, what are three examples of cloud-based cybersecurity systems?
S- Uh, so I'm mainly with Microsoft. I deal with a lot with Microsoft, and a lot with Microsoft. Main things for us is if you're looking from a network point of view, it is Azure firewalls. If you're using from an application point of view, we have got cloud app security, and basically the overall protection and detection response thing, we use Sentinel. That's one of the big things that's happening nowadays. It's a Siemens source solution which basically allows you to collect information, analyze, detect, and respond. So these are things that we offer our clients from a Microsoft point of view. But on top of that, the main thing actually with these clients and things like that is actually, if you really want to ask us, what are the main or four main systems? There's so many systems in IT. It's hard to know, but there are certain concepts. There are certain concepts in the security system we strongly follow, which is always similar for everyone. Those are with security systems. The main thing we want to know is visibility, visibility and compliance. So what is how visible are you? So you've got a product or you've got an environment. Tell us how visible everything is in that environment for you. No matter your systems are good, if you don't know what you have, you can have 1,001 systems. If you don't know what you have in the background to protect it, it's useless. So you need to have that visibility, understand your environment, and understand your environment. We also have lots of networking based security and things like that. Your computers, your basic computers, make sure that is secure. These very basic fundamental security things need to be in line first before we bring this big end of town words like cloud app security and things like that. It's a holistic approach, so there is nothing that's actually sorry, I'm just going a bit away from the topic, but there's nothing like any three famous cybersecurity systems. Not really. It's a holistic approach where you need to start from ground up, make sure your computers are okay, make sure your network is okay, make sure your systems are okay, and then from there you've got the big end tools like all this protection, detection, and things like that. It's a whole holistic approach.
Brilliant. I love that answer because it's great because, like you say, there aren't three, and it's not a trick question,
Yeah,
but it's just a
yeah,
nice way to really break it down to, well, actually, you can't just get an off-the-shelf solution and just put
that's
it
right.
into the system. So I really love that answer.
Correct.
Great.
Yeah,
And you actually touched on an important point in our next task, which is actually about the technical language. So you mentioned
oh yeah,
like huge technical language, and
yeah,
part of, obviously in the initial kickoff, you do that verification and like sort of almost
yeah.
playback of this is what we understand. How can you actually verify that you've simplified the technical language to a level that your client understands what they're purchasing and that they really have got to grips with what they're getting for their solution?
I'll give that's actually everyone does things differently. What I do and also what a company really promotes is even before you start a and actually a presentation is we speak to one of our HR team members who might not be technically strong, but they're very good with HR. Or we speak to a finance people who are maybe very good from the accounting rather than IT, and tell them what we are going to try to communicate with the clients. Ask if they understand what we say. It's simple, just ask for help, or I don't know, ask your partner. Just speak to your partner, find if your partner understands what you're saying. So they might sort of, I've given a couple of names like before: seem, saw. Nobody will understand that. I mean, sorry, outside IT, chances are very less, and you don't have to. It's not your responsibility to understand those things. We then break it down. So my wife would come and say to me, "Okay, what is a SIEM solution?" I don't know. So for me, I know it is basically security information, event management, yada yada. But at the end point, it is a tool to collect security data. Simple. So a tool to collect security data. Once I speak to any one of my close relatives who might not be a very strong IT background, or even my staff members or colleagues, I will get a feel. So that's a very nice way of understanding where we stand. If they understand, chances are the other person will understand. Second thing, what we do normally is with kickoff, we give a lot of examples. So, okay, so we say, okay, this particular company has been hacked, his data has been taken, but if he had done so and so, this possibly wouldn't have happened. So this so and so, we say in very simple terms, so he understands, okay, we need this tool because it can help us stop this thing. Giving that example, it's very important to just relate in very simple terms with few examples, understanding, speaking it in front of your colleagues who are not IT. All these basic things will actually make you understand how simple you can go and how simple you can start explaining things. And ideally, with IT, we always find we can keep talking and talking, but that's not what people want. They just want quick, short, nice answers, and you
Brilliant.
learn with experience as well. And it comes with a bit of experience. So yeah, it's a combination.
So important, isn't it? That it's almost like translating another language.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
brilliant. And our final question for the case study is
Yep.
actually, obviously the IT environment is such a dynamic world to be in. So how do you and your team maintain your own professional development, your own skills and expertise? Because obviously you're advising clients on solutions, so you always need to be up to date. So how do you do that as well as do your jobs and balance everything else as well?
Correct. So within IT, we have got a very famous saying: "You only stop studying when you're dead." So that is the truth, because every day changes. Even the technology changes every 2 weeks. So what you preach today is not what happens tomorrow, especially within the cloud platform. So for us, understanding things is very important. Companies do understand that. For example, in my company, we are scheduled a 2-hour break in between. It's not called a break, it's called a study break, where you can actually go in and go into YouTube, learn what's happening last week, or what are the IT conference of people trying to explain things that's just released 2 weeks ago. We had the Microsoft Ignite just happened, so we have been given a couple of hours to go and understand what Ignite conference has actually bought, or what are the new things happening. It's You will never see with IT. You can get into IT, yes, but there becomes a point where unless and until you learn, you're really interested in developing and improving, you will never proceed, or you will never excel or go to the next level. For the next level, you need that capacity. You'll be stuck at one level. It's up to you. I don't want to study, I'm going to stuck at that level. Eventually you will be pushed down, because there are always people learning and coming up you know so to stay updated, to be current in the market, and to mainly help the customers and get them deliver and understand what they need, you will have to learn, otherwise you will be pushed down. It's a bitter hard truth with IT. You will have to learn until you're dead, or at least till you're retired, maybe. So yeah. So yeah.
Such an important, that is so important, because that there's so much this concept of you go, you do qualifications and then you go into the workplace, but it's actually not. It's
Yeah,
it's a lifelong learning journey, isn't it?
exactly. teaching and your qualification gives you the basics. You always need to understand the fundamentals, like my 3-year-old learning numbers. Yes, you need to learn that from school, that numbers, but how do you use that numbers to do complex things in the future is based on what you learn after the schooling happens,
Yeah,
um, yeah. So, and you will always have to learn in IT. That is the hard truth, but that's a bittersweet thing. But people say it helps you from dementia and things like that. So yeah, kind of got its good advantages as well.
definitely.
Yeah, there you go.
It's kind of like, I guess trainers really need to be looking at teaching their students to learn how to learn.
Correct. Correct. That's so true.
Mm.
And that's what we need to follow. It's a lifelong journey, and for me, I find that if I do that, for me, on a personal note, I get a sense of gratification that I've done something different or something better from the day before. But at the same time, also teaching my to learn. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yep, yep, I can. It
Yep.
just went a little bit scratchy at the end. I think you were saying
Yeah.
you're teaching your own daughter.
My own, yeah, to I teach my own. My daughter sees what we do, and then
Mm.
they will basically follow suit. So it's a bit of on the personal level, but at the same time, I enjoy learning, developing, and progressing up the ladder as well. So
Ah,
works two ways.
brilliant. Well, thank you. It's such a nice note to end on, actually. But thank you so much for giving us your time, sharing your expertise, and building out the case study with us. It's really engaging, and everything and the insights that you shared are really helpful in preparing young people for the workplace and helping trainers to build those skills. So thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. All the best, and it's a great place to be.
Thank you.